Welcome back to Inclusive Design 24 for 2024, brought to you in partnership with our Platinum supporters, Barrier Break and Intopia, and our Gold supporters, InfoAxia and Tetralogical. You can follow us on Mastodon, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I'm not saying the other name. And if you have questions for the presenters, post them using the ID24 hashtag, or you can use the YouTube chat. We'll gather your questions for our Q&A and at the Q&A at the end of the session. A reminder that ID24 is a respectful community, and you can find our code of conduct on the Inclusive Design 24 website. I'm delighted to be joined by my guest host, David Swallow. We're going to be together for a couple here. And David, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. So next up, we've got Malin Hammarberg and Sara Kjellstrand from the Funka Foundation, who will be talking about something I think we can all identify with, and that's digital serenity. So how to reduce user stress with brain-friendly web design. Over to you both.
Hi, my name is Malin Hammarberg, and I work as a UX design and accessibility specialist at Funka Foundation, certified professional in web accessibility. And with me today, I have my friend and colleague, Sara Kjellstrand, who's a research strategist at Funka Foundation, and she's certified professional in accessibility core competences. And today we will talk about the impact of stress and what it really does to us when we get stressed and how we behave and what happens. But also what triggers digital stress and how we can create a more brain-friendly environment where we reduce the stress in our designs. So I think all of you out there, have you ever felt stressed when you're conducting an errand online? Well, you are not alone. Loads of users find themselves stressed when they end up in complex or unstructured situations. And I will just go through a kind of scenario that we meet rather often on the web. So we might remember that we were supposed to buy that gift. So we need very quickly to go into a shop to buy maybe a shirt for our father's birthday, or maybe our kid grew out of his shoes again because his feet grew 2 sizes during the night. That happens. And we need to quickly kind of fix the situation and buy something. So we go into the website and we are bombarded with things even when we open the website. We not only get things we need to act on, like the cookie banner in Europe, or that the store wants our location. There are also multiple calls to actions with a sales banner in the top, maybe a shop now button, maybe a feedback button. And even if we do our decisions on the cookie banner, we do our decisions on the location, then the next thing starts popping up. We get maybe a prompt that we need to log in. We get a prompt that the chatbot wants us to talk with them for some reason. And the newsletter sign up pops up, and we need to start closing things down before even we are getting to things we were feeling stressed about that we needed to do right now. So Sara, what actually happens to us when we get this stress worked up?
Exactly. So to understand what's happening, because this is something that I think we've all been in this kind of situation, we need to go back a step and to see what the brain actually is doing in these kind of situations. So the brain rarely or hardly ever relaxes at all because it's constantly processing information. And when we hear the word information, we're usually thinking about word-based information, things that we hear or that we read. But that's just one part of it. As you're sitting where you're sitting, you're also registering sensory signals from the environment. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? What's the noise in the background? What's that thing moving somewhere else? So you're both processing information that you're concentrating on, but also everything that goes on around you. And when it gets too much, there is this clear risk of cognitive overload, which could lead to stress. So this is connected to, if we look at the next slide, it's connected to the mental functions that we use in the processing of information, so that we keep our focus and attention on something. We are trying to remember what we're doing on the website for the first thing, and then also trying to remember the things that we see or read. We are trying to get an understanding of what we are doing and what we are reading and hearing with the reasoning parts, and we're trying to make a decision on things. So what happens when we get stressed is that these mental functions are really put in a mess. So you will have, for example, a failure of working memory, and it could be a big failure, it could be a small one, but still there's a little glitch here, which means that you could forget some things. You can have a failure of attention span, meaning that you will have difficulties in concentrating on what you're doing, difficulties learning new things. And there are also issues about adaptability, so hard word, but it's about being flexible and to really adapt and try to take in the new situation and knowing how to respond in new things happening to you. And if you have problems with adaptability, then it could mean also that you start worrying about things. Or it could be that you get difficulty with controlling your impulses and have a poor judgment or jumpiness. So what does this actually have to do with a specific situation where you're in front of your screen? Is that the situation matters. It's not only about your ability. I mean, some people will have a strength in, say, memory, have easy time to remember things, but perhaps less easy to concentrate. Or you could have all sorts of different combinations of your strengths and weaknesses in mental abilities. But what's also impacting is the situation where you are at the moment. So even if you think you're a superhuman yourself in remembering and in keeping calm and in responding to different situations, it really depends on the environment. It's much easier to stay concentrated if you're in your own space than if you're around in a busy environment, but people are running around. And this has a super important impact on the way we're using technology and the way we're using digital interfaces. Because it's not really the case now that people are sitting with their own supercomputer at home or at the office, and they're just concentrating on the screen and what's happening in the digital environment. You're also affected by the surroundings. So for example, if you're doing a travel booking online, and then maybe you're sitting with your family, also discussing the different options. So you have part of your concentration on the screen, on the booking, and also part of the concentration on the people around you. You may also be in a work environment where you're discussing with colleagues and solving issues in spreadsheets or whatever in the digital environment. Or you could be, as we are all doing, I think we're masters of it, multitasking. So I bet you that there are quite a few of you looking at this now who are also doing your emails at the same time, trying to be efficient. And I think this is something we can all recognize that we're doing. And in fact, it just means that we are lending out our capacity to focus on different things. One of the images we have here is driving and texting, and I don't think that's even legal, but it can happen as well. You could be in all sorts of different situations, trying to look for directions in the metro. Did I miss my stop? What's happening? So the surroundings also are part of this stress thing. And if we look at the impact on how much we actually react to the stress and how much the interface is inducing stress, it depends on all of these different factors. So it's about your own mental functions. Some people have a strength in memory or perhaps a weakness in focus, or the reverse. It depends on the situation. It also depends on the form of day. So if you've already had a really busy morning or a really bad night's sleep, that also comes into the equation. And it depends on all these factors, how full your glass becomes and how quickly you actually come into a stress mood. And the effects of this can go from mildly irritating to really a debilitating situation where you're not capable of actually doing what you came to do on the website.
So what is it that triggers stress online for us? Well, when we go into the web, we usually go there with a purpose. There's something we want to do. Very rarely go into the web to just push random links in hope that we end up somewhere. We have a purpose why we go there. It might be that we are searching for specific information, or we want to book something, maybe a doctor's appointment or tickets to the next show, or a travel, or we want to shop at church, shop new shoes, or what it might be. Or we want to do our payments or banking, or maybe we want to share something on a blog post or in social media or in chats or what it might be, but we have a purpose to go to the internet. And when we have that purpose, that thing we need to do, there are also barriers on the way. And these barriers, as Sara said, differs depending on what day it is, but also how we are as a person, because what triggers stress is actually different in each and every one of us. So if we are aware of some situation that triggers stress, then we can create a more brain-friendly environment. So if we look at the different steps here, then we have understanding what to do. Before we can act on something, we need to understand how to act on it or find what to act on. Then we are being able to do it. So we're doing the thing we want to do. And then sometimes we want to know how it went, if we succeeded or if we failed, or what the outcome was. And during all these 3 steps, we need to keep our focus. And keeping focus is hard. We are constantly bombarded by our smartwatches, our mobile phones, the computer. Emails are pinging, chats are coming in, Teams are talking, Slack is talking somewhere else. Maybe the school chat system is sending messages, or whatever it is. We are always constantly getting disrupted. And our attention span are shrinking. It's been shrinking for decades. And it's shrinking in a fast... sorry, I lost the English word. It's shrinking considerably, and now our attention span is about 40 to 50 seconds. So the thing we need to do when we focus, we need to have focus on all 3 of our steps. It's extremely important that we keep down the cognitive load and then the distractions, so that we can let the user focus. So we will go through all this. When we want to understand what to do, there are some particular barriers we can find. If the context is overly complex, the language or the image are hard to understand, it requires a lot of mental effort. And we start building up that stress feeling that we don't really understand what we are supposed to do. And when it's hard, and sometimes it's hard to identify important information, identify the key actions of information. And this leads to mental fatigue when we kind of, where I'm supposed to look. And we get an information overload, as I showed in the beginning, with all the things that kind of pops up and distract us, and kind of things we need to act on before we get to what we want to do. And unfamiliar interfaces. When we try to be reinventive with the internet, we do a new menu, or we change where the menu position is. This increases the stress for some users, because we need to try to relearn what the interface wants us to do, because things aren't looking like we are used to, or they aren't placed where they normally are, and we need to constantly be looking for things. Then our stress level increase because we start to get uncertain. So this is an example of an information overload. On this website, I went to look for how to return my shopped thing, and I was pointed to this place where there were so much text and really long lines. It was an information overload, and all I wanted to know was to get the link where I could say I want to do a return. This was not helpful, and it increased my stress levels greatly. So if we figure out how to do it, if we get that link and we are in the action to do something, then there are some barriers here that increases the stress. We have the mysterious interactive elements. You know, the elements where we're not sure if they are clickable or not. And even if we figure out that they are clickable, we're not sure what they actually do because they're a bit ambiguous. We can't understand what will happen when we click them. And this increases the stress levels in us. We can also get unclear instructions, like we're not sure what we're supposed to put in the input field because we're not sure what they're asking for or in what format or what fields are required. We can also be set to time limits. It can be time limits from that we are trying to book a concert ticket and we only have 10 minutes before they release the tickets we have placed in our cart before to someone else because we are too slow. Or it can be time limits from that we filled in a form and then we got distracted and went away, and when we got back, the form was emptied. And we also get stressed when there are no progress indicators. So when we are in a process and we don't know where we are, if we're in the beginning, the middle, and the end, we don't know how long time it will take for us to finish. Maybe we're doing a survey and we started, and the question seems to never end, and we do not understand where we are. This also increases the anxiety to how much is left. How long do I need to sit with this? So this is an example of mysterious interactive elements. It's taken from a website where they made a menu on the left side. The menu consists of 10 very nice drawn icons. They are beautiful, but as a user going to this site, there's no clue what these icons do. There's no label. It's not conventional icons. It's not like you have seen them and know, oh, this icon is this. So this increases the stress because now the users need to just randomly click something and see where they end up. And when we have done our task, then we need to know how it went. So there's a lack of feedback. There's absence of clear and explicit messages that leaves us unsure if we succeeded or not, or did we do anything wrong when we sent it, or was it okay? Or the error messages we get are confusing. We do not understand if we even get the error message. Maybe the field just get a red border or something, and we don't really understand what went wrong. Or the error message in itself is confusing, and we don't understand how to fix it. And we need to start doing our own troubleshooting, which increases the stress because now everything is on us to fix it. We don't get any support. And then if we can't, and we are in that tight spot and we really need support, and there's a lack of support, we can't find any number or any way to get help on the issue in hand, then that increases this frustration, anxiety, and stress even more. So here's an example of a confusing error message. This is a form where you're supposed to fill in your credit card number. And the credit card number is filled in, the date of expiry is filled in, and the CVV is filled in. But the error message says that the expiration year entered is out of range. The expiration year entered in 2025, so it's probably not out of range, but that's the error message. What's actually has gone wrong here is that they expected the format of writing the years using just 2 numbers. It's written in 4 numbers. So it's not out of range, it's rather just written in the wrong format, but the user don't know that because that's not the information conveyed. So during all these steps, keeping focus as we were talking about and maintaining focus on the purpose at hand can be disrupted by distracting elements. So we have the pop-ups I was showing, like the sign up to email newsletter pop-ups, or the login pop-up, or the chat, or the cookie banner pop-up, or the please give us feedback on this website pop-up. We also have the autoplaying content, the videos that constantly just plays in the background, or the carousel just going round and round and round with new images. And all of these can be extremely distracting. For some users, so distracting that they don't even are possible to do whatever they were set there to do. We also have the chatbots that are there to help us, but for some reason keeps popping up messages if we don't interact with them. And we have multiple call to actions. We have both the call to actions where they want us to do the thing we want to do, but also the calls to action where they want to maybe ask us to do something else. All the dark pattern call to actions where they say, act now before this shirt disappears we only have 1 left in the size you want. Or, and all of these kind of pick on our attention and make our focus disappear. So if we look at some common distractions, we have, as I said, the please sign in pop-up, and these are usually with a sign in, and sign in, it's under it says sign up, it's free in red for some reason, so it looks like an error message. And then there's also a feedback button, because why not? And another one is the cookie banner, where we have our multiple choices in Europe, where we need to decide if we want to share cookies or if we want to fix the cookies. And we have the sign up for email form. We also have those kind of small dark patterns where they want us to act out of fear. So fear of missing out. They want us to quickly do a decision and buy something. In this case, it says that this is selling out fast, one of the items, and we should probably get our now, even if we weren't looking for it. Or, the more common example from the hotels where they say, there are only 5 rooms left at this price at our site, because they really want us to book that hotel. Or the ones that say, hello, member, don't forget to use your coupon code or value check or whatever it might be. And there's a countdown timer asking us to quickly do this thing, but maybe that wasn't why we were on the site. All these keep spreading our focus. So how do we move from this to a better place, Sara?
So how do you feel now that you've seen all these different types of distractions? You kind of stress, no? Would you really like to go back to that type of website? I don't really think so. I mean, what happens psychologically when we experience stress is that we usually see the item that is causing stress as a threat. So maybe not a dinosaur, but at least what we would think about for a website is that you either do fight or flight, classically. So fight, perhaps you would write a blog post or do some sort of social anger towards the website, or you would just do a flight thing and never go back to it again. And if you're a commercial website and you want more customers, this is really not what you want. You want to be the best friend where you can come back, where visitors want to come back to the website regularly to buy more of your stuff, right? So what we need to do is to reverse and to try to come up with some brain-friendly different design ideas. And if you look at the next slide, Malin.
Sorry.
No problem. We have just collected a few examples of different brain-friendly website designs that you can think of to relieve the stress from the user, knowing that the user will not only have your website to concentrate on, but also things around them. So we'll go into these examples. They are highlight important information. Less is more, that is to have few distractions, go for multimodality and choices, and also consistency and familiarity. We have a few examples of these ones. So highlight important information. I think it's probably very tempting for a lot of website designers or content creators to just bombard people with the new stuff because they are bored of the old stuff. But really what you need to think about is to think into the user case. So what does the user want to do on your website? What is the really most important thing that they want to do on the website? And what kind of information do they need to do it? So if you look at Zoom, for example, you have a quite simple interface where you can open a new meeting, you can join a meeting, schedule or share screen. And then you have a calendar on WhatsApp, and that's it. No news flashes or other things, just straight into this is what you want to do on our web, and this is how you can do it. Related to that is also to have few distractions. So not have these banners, carousels and things that distract you from the purpose of what you want to do on the website. And we have here an example of the National Library of Medicine. What do you want to do there? You want to find articles. So you have the search bar really prominently featured on the website, and then a few options at the bottom of what you can also do on the site. But no flashes on new articles or other items to look at, but really just go and search. This is what you can do. Really scale down. Multimodality goes back to what we were saying earlier about people having strengths and weaknesses in the different mental functions. It also relates to having different preferences on how you want to get your information. Some people prefer audio or video, some people prefer text, some want to have images. And if you can cater to all of these things without actually trying to find your ideal visitor, but just give them a choice of ways to interact, then people will be feel like they have been seen by you as the web owner, and also can relate to the site. This is something where somebody has thought of how I want to look at or get information. So the example we have here is NPR, the National Public Radio in the US, where they have both the audio, of course, it's the radio, but you can also easily find and download the transcript. They also have photo documentaries where you can look at the story just based on different images. And another feature that we want to discuss is the familiarity that Malin already talked about. It's to do with consistency. If you have a limited attention span to go into a website, you don't have the time or energy to learn new patterns. You just want to find the menu. Where is the menu usually? Well, it's up at the top right with the hamburger icon. So in the don't example we have here, they've switched the hamburger icon at the top towards something that is dotted, and we don't really know what it is. Is it really a menu or is it something else? And then they move what is probably the menu buttons, but we can't really be sure, to the button. So it's really, this is not where people would expect to find it. Is it a menu or is it just some other sort of icons? Clickable or not, we don't really know. And it takes much more cognitive load to figure out how the website works before you actually do anything. Whereas at the other example, gov.uk, they have the menu where it's supposed to, or where people expect to find it. And they also have a very prominent search field, because it's what you want to go do on the website is to find information.
So from our user research, we have discovered 2 key insights that are crucial for designing accessible digital experience. First, subtle design changes, such as simplified content, for instance, can significantly actually improve the user experience. So small adjustments go a long way to reduce cognitive load, making it easier for all users to complete tasks. And the second thing we have found out is that it is important to recognize people with cognitive disability actually often are the first to notice usability issues that affects everyone. So their feedback highlights design flaws that might not be immediately apparent, but impact all users' ability to focus, navigate, or understand content. And addressing these issues early benefits the broader user base. So we found one more example that I think is really good on that: small, subtle things we can do, because accessibility and stress-free design and getting to that inclusive design is to actually do small steps. Just do something, it's better than doing nothing. So our don't here is from a Swedish website. Don't bother if you don't understand it, because the thing I want to talk about is the magnifying glass. We have 2 magnifying glass on this website. We have one by the search bar, that's common, and then we have one further down underneath a picture of tomatoes. And the top magnifying glass, of course, is the search bar where you can search things. The bottom magnifying glass is a button, but what does that button do? We ask a lot from the users here to understand that the same icon might have different functions here. And it's increasing the stress levels, because now we need either to click it to understand what we can search for further down, or we just assume that it's the search and we get confused, because what it actually does is increasing the image of the very generic image of tomatoes, zooming in on tomato image. For some reason, that's apparently an important function. But our point here is using the same icon for 2 different functions. That's extremely, it's added to the cognitive load. So here's an example of another website. They also have the magnifying glass in the search and a function to zoom in on the image. But here they have used the magnifying glass with a plus inside it. So now the icons are actually different, and we remove that cognitive barrier from the user. So with very subtle design changes, we can actually make a huge difference for the users. So we have concluded our 5 main tips, how you can create a more stress-free digital environment. And firstly, focus on the user's objective. Why is the user there? Try to help them find the main information, the important thing that they need to do. Keep it simple and intuitive. Make it easy for the user to fulfill their task, feeling it as a breeze, as something they get happy, not getting stressed and depressed by. And help the user keep focus. So if you want to prompt for a newsletter, maybe not do it in the process where the user are doing something else. And the chatbot maybe doesn't need our attention if we don't need to ask a question. Also, provide alternatives, because when we provide alternatives, all users are able to take the information they need and are able to use the functions in the way they need. So multimodality is something we speak warmly about. And lastly, but especially not leastly, because it's one of the most important parts of everything, test with user with different abilities. Testing with user with different abilities will help us create a more inclusive web design. We will find the issues that stress, the issues that are a cognitive burden earlier in the design process, and they will not be a cost to fix because we already have information about it. So test with user with different abilities, our absolutely best, I think, of our 5 tips. And I see that we talked very quickly today, so I'm sorry about that. Any questions? Should I remove this now? Stop.
No, you can leave that up there, Malin, if you want to, but that's fine as well. I want to thank you both for the presentation. Lovely talk. I have to admit, I'm sitting here the whole time endeavoring to listen to the talk while I'm also multitasking and monitoring 5 different social channels, Slack channels behind the scenes, and all that's going through my head is this talk is referencing exactly what I'm struggling to do at times while I'm sitting here helping everything out. On that note, David, because I've been monitoring things, I'm going to throw over to you because you've got a little bit of a simpler side of things of just focusing on the questions.
I have, yes, yes. We have indeed had some comments and questions. So the first one was from Just Learning, who says, hi, the webinar is very informative. I have a question about screen reading. What are your suggestions about reading orders to reduce stress?
Well, the reading order is always important. I know that most screen reader users, if we look at statistics, navigate using the headlines or the headings on a website. So having good and structured headings actually helps the user with assistive technology the best, I would say. From a reading order, the reading order is always important because it affects not only users with assistive technology, it also affects users with motor impairments, because if we use some other way to interact with the website and our focus marker jumps all over the place, that's really hard to follow as well. So from a stress perspective, I would say keeping the reader order as it is visually is extremely important, because the reading order you set up is probably the order you think helps the user the best. So that reading order should be conveyed for assistive technology and and in the code as well.
Yeah, it keeps coming back to that, keeping it simple and unambiguous, really, doesn't it? And that seems to be the key thing throughout all of these. We've got another one here, which is more of a comment, I think, from and they say, reminds me of something I've noticed on websites of railway operators. Big parts of these sites is just marketing and SEO content, and it becomes very unclear where to find actual info and buy tickets. And it goes on, in my experience, Interrail and SNCF are the worst offenders. Interrail has a timetable search widget that takes ages to load and is displayed on many pages. SNCF has lots of generated pages for the SEO. That's the comment. Any reflection on that at all?
Yeah, well, it's a huge challenge. I think the bookings is something that everybody can relate to, and it's going to be interesting to see now with the European Accessibility Act, where there will be new demands, especially for tickets and for operators, on how they will actually perceive the new requirements, because they are mostly technical. The legislation we have is very much focused on technical requirements, but for a huge part of the population, it's really the cognitive and the cognitive load that is the issue. So it's I think we have a shout out here to everybody selling tickets, if it's to flights or rail or whatever, to think about the cognitive load as well, and not just the technical parts.
Yeah, that makes sense. During that comment, just learning's had to sound so stressful. We've had a question from Andre, which says, in Europe, when is the best time to display the RGDP buttons?
Yeah, that's the cookie consent.
Ah.
The cookie consent needs to be there from the start, and there are several different ways to do it. But we are actually in the present, we are actually working on researching what the usability of cookie banners are for users with disabilities. So I would like to kind of wait to answer that questions until we finish that research, because I usually like to take my knowledge from how it actually works from the user instead of guessing. But we've seen that cookie banners that are easy to understand and easy to get to for all users are the ones that are best. There are so much accessibility issues with cookie banners and so much dark patterns in them. So I could probably talk for them for entire. Me and Sara will go back next year and talk about cookie banners.
Yeah, follow up.
Yeah, but we're doing the user tests now in a couple of weeks. So subscribe to the Funka Foundation newsletter, and we will be sending out news updates on this research throughout the autumn.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. I've got a question. I think many users find obviously find the web stressful, and are kind of fully on board with measures to address these issues. But then there's that obvious conflict with businesses who often benefit from sneaky tricks and deceptive patterns and are quite reluctant to tackle them. What can we do to hold businesses to account? What do you think is the most powerful kind of levers on that? You know, do we need more laws? Do we need greater fines? Is it a knowledge? Is it awareness, education thing?
The dark patterns are hard, I think, because we see them everywhere. We see them, yes, we said in the cookie consent, where they want to kind of trick us to say, yeah, we want all the cookies in the world. Or we see them in shopping sites where they want to get us with the fear of missing out, that this product we really need to buy, even if we're not sure that we want it. So I think that's a tricky path. I've seen some research saying that those kind of stressful impacts where they want us to buy things that we don't want isn't necessarily actually increasing the sales. So maybe we should do more research on how on saying like this is just increasing the stress, not the sales. I'm not sure. It's a hard question, and it's not covered by any laws. And I think it will be hard to cover it by a law. But we have some laws in Europe saying that we are supposed to be able to return things we bought online. And I'm sorry, I'm very bad at legal stuff here. I think Sara is better answering.
Well, I'm not sure, but I mean, I always think that training and education is a good way to start, and not necessarily only the UX designers and developers, but also like this may sound extremely European, but the do like sort of a people's movement to actually educate also users, because I think usually say to people, oh, you don't understand that website because you don't know it. You need to learn the technical stuff and you need to be as tech savvy as the rest of us. No, this is actually not the problem. It's not with the user. The user do not own this problem. The owner of the problem is somewhere else. And if we can get more people to not accept bad design, then I think there will be also less acceptance to actually do the bookings and go into and shop on these websites. So I think there's a bit of a mix of both. Standards can go some way, I guess, but it's a hugely long process. And we know that from the cognitive side that, you know, the WCAG and on these kinds of more, the web accessibility standards have been more focused on technical parts. And that's because they are more easily discussed and resolved. This is my personal view of it. I know it's a super complicated issue and I'm going to get into trouble with also people if I get into this, but the fact is that the accessibility standards were developed from a technical point of view at the time. And even though there are loads of people looking now at requirements for cognitive load and for other issues, it's a much more complex issue, since we are talking also about preferences and differences in abilities. And it's just taking much longer. So I don't think we should wait for new requirements or new laws. And looking at the European experience from public authorities, people just say, well, this is a new thing we need to do on top of all the other things we already have to do. So we're not really putting it top of the list. So just try to get more and more people interested and awake, sort of, both on the design and the user side. I think that could be a way forward.
Yeah. It does feel like a very short-term focus, the deceptive patterns and things like that. You know, it might trick some customers, you know, in the short term and get a few more sales immediately, but long term, I think you're going to see that sort of people turning away from those websites that do cause these stressful situations.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, sorry, I'm wondering if it's like with spam that they send out so much of it that even if a small percentage sticks, then already it gets the business going.
Yeah. I've got another question.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I would just, go ahead.
Yeah, I've done a bit of research in this area, and a question that I often get asked for some reason. People say, do you think it'd be possible to have some kind of prefers reduced stress mode or setting? And if so, you know, how would you implement it? It's a question I always struggle with, so I just thought I'd pass that on to you.
I would say no. I'm very much against kind of where you have to do a special setting. I think it should be inclusive for everyone. As Sara explained during her parts, is that we have that glass we fill, and when it's to the top, we get stressed, and it doesn't. So it's daily form, and it's kind of the environment. And how do we decide what day we are supposed to do the settings where we don't want to get stressed, and the days we say, oh, today is the day you can throw the stress at me. I'm struggling to see the usability of that. I think we rather need to understand the impact of what actually happens at our site. Do they choose a competitor? And if they do that, maybe we should reduce the stress we actually put on our users, so they come back to our site instead.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's just so many stresses as well, and how would you
and what triggers stress for someone might not be the same, because maybe some of the things I took up today, maybe not everybody think, oh, that's not stressful, but some of the parts are. And for me, seeing a wall of text is extremely stressful because I have dyslexia. So for me, it's like, oh, wow, should I read all this before I get to where I'm going? So that's stress for me. But for someone that reads very fast and very quickly, that's not stress for them. So it's so individual. So I think I don't see how that would work out, really.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And I also
Okay.
think it's about owning the problem. Again, don't put the problem at the user, that the user needs to do a setting. It's your website. So
Yeah,
own the
yeah,
issue.
take that responsibility. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, right. I think we're about at time now. Thank you very much for the discussions. Stuart, do you want to wrap things
Thank
up?
you, David. I will take us out. So if you like this session, hit that YouTube like button. And don't forget, you can subscribe to youtube.com/inclusive design 24 to be kept in the loop on our future events. Inclusive Design 24 is brought to you with thanks to our supporters, which include Barrier Break, Intopia, Infoaxia, Tetralogical, Intuit, Adrian Roselli LLC, Assistive Labs, the Law Office of Lanny Feingold, Skyscanner, and Bispero. Inclusive Design 24 will be back on the hour with our next session. See you then.